Hi there all, it's Megan Ryan, and I am here today with my guest Ray Maor. You might actually know of him already because back in 2013 he hosted, well, not host, he was a guest in a show on Breatharianism. Breatharianism essentially is the art and or skill of going long distances of time without eating and or drinking. You get some major benefits from doing this, and I'm hoping that he can better explain what those are. So without further ado, here's Ray.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me, Ryan.
Yeah, no problem.
Where can I start? You have to ask me guiding questions.
Yeah, I have many here, many. So, I gave a little brief introduction there on what Breatharianism is, but is there anything I missed out?
Yes. Well, a lot of people think that breatharianism is about food and the lack of food, and it's true. But in order to achieve this, the body really has to raise the frequency and pretty much be full of chi. People reach this naturally, by the way, when they're sun gazing sometimes. They reach a state of not eating for a long time. Yogis reach this, rabbis, ancient rabbis in the Bible, and like if you look at ancient religions, you will see all of them are about fasting and cleansing as a way to spiritually meet God. And what it actually does is that it raises the vibration of the body. And by that, you get to a state that the body requires very, very little to almost nothing. And that's why you can really prolong the periods of time that you don't really need any food or any water. And it depends on what you got the body accustomed to and depends on your belief system. And naturally, there's levels of breatharianism. I am level three, there's level four as well. Level four are very unique and few in the world that don't require any food and any water at all. One of them is, if you've seen the documentaries, one of them is called Prajani. There's another guy that's called Victor. And these guys always live in a place that's very humid because they teach their body to actually consume water through the pores of the skin. So they
Yes.
can't really live in a desert or something like that. So I consider myself a mini breatharian compared to them because I still live, Western life, regular job, wife, stress, two children. So I have to find a way to balance my spiritual aspirations with my regular day-to-day routine.
Hmm.
So I can tell you it was much easier before I was married because, as a bachelor, I had a fridge, it was pretty much empty. I had one bottle of ayahuasca. I was into that back in the day, and I don't mind talking about this stuff online. We do this type of retreats in South America and Central America as well. And now it's a little bit harder. Like in the beginning, I was an extreme breatharian. I didn't eat for a whole year. If I drank like 2 cups of juice a day or something like that. I was like way under the caloric, scientific, or observable spectrum of food.
Hmm.
But after a year, I said, okay, I can calm down. I felt that it's beginning to annoy me socially. I couldn't date with anybody. I couldn't go out with my friends to a restaurant, to coffee places. I was saying so much no that I began to feel deprived. So then I started eating very little and I started planning my meals. So they're very, very social. So it was back in the day, it was like once a week I would eat on Friday evening with my family or my friends. Today, I would say it's about 2, 3 meals a week or something like that. You choose it mostly because of flavor and social, and not because you feel like you really have to. But there are times when I travel that I eat a little bit more if I want to experience, or there's times that, for example, I went to Burning Man in 2015, and over there I ate almost every evening something. And I did the Israeli survival show, and over there I ate with them once every 2 days, in front of the cameras and everything. So I wanted them to shoot me not eating and doing missions and tasks and exercises. And then every second day, I joined the rest of the group and we had dinner together, for example. So you kind of like, reality becomes more malleable for you. You kind of play around with the concept of what you need, like playing around with sleep. So you play around with food as well.
Hmm. People out there who, let's say they want to do this, you said you've just got to build the body up. with chi, like fill it with chi. There are many exercises out there that will help to swell the
They
body
are.
up with chi. Would
They
those
are.
individuals that can do those exercises have an easier time being a breatharian?
Almost nobody that tries to do this by themselves succeeds eventually. There's a groups that are doing breatharian initiations in the world, so it's kind of like passed on from master to student. There's more unlearning to be done than there is learning. There are things that will really help you during the breather initiation and the months after that. For example, sunbathing, breathing techniques that are simply pulling in a lot of oxygen. You don't have to go to something specific. I have many exercises of this, but I teach many varieties, and I tell the students that if you feel that this one helps you more, then you should use that one a little bit more. Falun Dafa, good exercises for raising the chi if you're familiar with them. The five Tibetan rites, they're also really good. Again, these ones stretch out your back
Hmm.
in four different modalities. One of them actually resets the water in the body.
Oh, cool.
And what we're actually aiming for is to rebalance the chakras. So as we grow up, when we're young, everything works, the hormone levels, the chakras. But as we mature, each chakra becomes a little bit more dominant or recessive. So it has a little bit more. For example, you and I, we talk quite a lot. We know how to explain ourselves. So the fifth chakra is very open. My seventh chakra is very open because of breatharianism. I had to learn how to breathe in from the seventh chakra and bring in light, and it became like automatic. So the other chakras are a little bit out of balance. So these actually create a more harmonic, energetic body. And then there's the issue of people overeating. I mean, ask yourself, how much do I need to eat? But really ask yourself, 2,000 years ago, how much did people really eat? Did they eat 3 meals a day? No. Did they eat two? Maybe they ate one. Maybe the rich people ate two. And and when you think about that, okay, so how much can I get my body accustomed to? If right now you reduce half of what you used to eat, you're not going to die. Yes, you will lose weight. Your body will eventually adapt. And then ask yourself, okay, how much does the digestive tract actually consume of my energy? And you will find that it's anywhere between 15 to 25%. So if you're eating something very heavy, 25% will go back into digesting it. So think about that as well. So if you're only drinking juice and you don't need that much water because most of the water that you drink is used to digest the food that you eat, again, and the body gets used to it. Once you don't drink that much water, the body has less sweat. The body requires, you generally eat less food, so it requires less, and your tongue is not as wet as well. This is what happens in prolonged dry fastings, for example. So when you take away all these logical things and you understand that the body is 70% water, so it doesn't make sense scientifically that after 3 days my body will die. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up if I'm full of water. So the body has to be trained to use the deep water, to know how to use the water. And you do that with intention, you do that with belief, you do that with different exercises until you actually, the Breatharian initiation is going through at least 4 days of dry fasting, understanding that you're not going to die, and eventually changing a core belief. And that works just like a placebo, right? How does a placebo work? You change a belief about your body listens to that belief and starts acting accordingly. We know that miraculous healings happen that way. We know that people just need to be convinced of something. If you say, for a religious person, you can say, God has touched you. This is the way that angels work. This is how Moses worked. Each one of us has to find the way to change our beliefs, and that's what we need. That's what we actually do in this type of breatharian lifestyle.
It's funny, as you're talking, I'm coming up with questions and you're answering them almost straight away, which is really cool. Like, I used to do, what was it? I did 3 times out of the year, I would do dry fasts for 8 days straight. And I would
Okay.
periodically do dry fasts every weekend. So no, I'd stop eating on Friday, start eating on Monday. And my wife, I've gone through I had to prepare for all of that until it became really easy. But what I noticed, and this is something I tell a lot of people, and they're like, they don't really get it, but I think you'll get it. I think you just touched on this, was that by day four, I'm lying in bed and it wakes me up. My whole body goes and becomes like a slug. It's like the insides become so soft and everything starts moving in a different way. And then it just feels like the intelligence of the body wants to go deeper to find moisture. And I think that's what you were talking about just now. And when that
It could very
happens,
much be.
it's
Yes.
very interesting because you realize you just hit a certain mark that
That's
only
right.
certain people will
That mark is
understand.
after 3 days of dry fasting.
Yeah.
That's when the liver starts cleansing from the antibiotics, and a lot of clarity comes, a lot of downloads. You less think about it this way: you're less feeding yourself off earth and the elements of earth, and therefore you're less heavy. And now you have more energy that goes to the consciousness to be cleared. So a lot of ideas come up, a lot of synchronicities happen because you're not as heavy as you were before.
Weird question. Two, I hope I remember the other one. Chakras. Each chakra is governed by a certain element. If you're not eating, let's say, root chakra foods, denser foods, maybe potatoes, what may have you, would you say that certain dominant chakras in your system are more akin to, like the heart chakra, for example? Its element is air. Would you say your leading chakra is your heart chakra, or do you feel more a sensitivity around the heart? I'm trying to see if your chakras coincide with your diet and or are
No,
influenced by them. No?
if we're looking at the four body system of the mental, spiritual, emotional, physical, I'm more on the spiritual mental side than I am on the heart.
Ah, okay, okay. Have you done any exercises and or meditations outside of Breatharianism? Maybe something you did before you were introduced to
Oh
Breatharianism
yeah,
that
quite a
has
lot.
amplified your success with Breatharianism.
I think that yes, but I would say that the exercises that I did, I was sort of like prepared to teach in some way. I was kind of like guided. I wasn't the type of person that likes to talk too much, but once I did my initiation, I met a guy. We were in Tel Aviv volunteering, a happy hippie, and he took me to the side and he told me, "You know something, Ray? I have something I want to tell you." He shared with me that he's a Breatharian for a couple of years. It was back then, and I was so intrigued, and it was so interesting for me. I told him, okay, it makes sense. I don't know how. But then I went back home and I couldn't stop thinking about it until I just came back to him and I said, "You have to teach me.
Hmm.
You have to teach me." And it was like in 2012, and it was before, the Maya's end of calendar where we thought the whole world is going to end and stuff. So I said, okay, I don't want to really do this. I'm going to postpone it to the end of the world. And if the end of the world is not going to really end, I'll just do the Breatharian initiation.
I did the same thing.
So
Yeah.
I can tell you, so I postponed and it happened, and my initiation was much harder. It was 21 days in isolation. I did it next to the Gaza Strip. Back
Okay.
in the day, it was like you do it by yourself in silence
Yeah.
and without phone, without access to the outside world. Today, it's much easier, of course. So I would say the exercises that I learned before kind of like introduced me to the world of spirituality, and they helped me align my thoughts because a lot of exercises are about no thinking. Like meditation is about becoming the awareness, becoming the observer of your breath and of yourself. And these kind of things introduced me to what I need to go through in order to really integrate this into my life, and it won't be that difficult.
Okay.
And emotionally, I'm very balanced because, like I said, emotions don't go over my head. I just don't take them as seriously. I take them as a part of the human journey. There's some drama, and then you go over the drama. And anyway, it's going to disappear. You're jealous, you're hurt, you're fearful. Tomorrow, you're going to feel better, right? So, why not connect to the energy of your future self and not ignore the emotion, but just don't drown into the emotion. Don't suppress the emotion. Admit the emotion. And once you admit it and you really feel it to your core, it goes away and dissolves much faster. And the problem today is that people don't really deal with their emotions. They blame others, they don't assume personal responsibility, and then they get sick, and the universe is trying to show them the right way, and they don't listen. So eventually, even bad things start happening in their life. So it's all kind of like a mix. If I take my life much simpler and much easier, things become the word effortlessness. You don't think about it too much. You're just like a leaf in the wind, and things just happen by themselves.
What about those people who have someone living with them who are intentionally trying to make their life hell?
That's difficult, and there's methods of dealing with that. For example, I tell people that mom and grandma are going to be the hardest in the first couple of months of being a breatharian. You're not allowed to eat in the first couple of months. You can only drink, and in the beginning, it's very very diluted juices, and then after a couple of weeks, you're allowed to have an occasional smoothie.
Hmm.
So you tell mom, okay, mom, I'm going through something. I'm going to take my blood tests in 2 months. And if my blood tests are all good, you're going to leave me alone. And then you give yourself breathing space for a couple of months.
Yeah.
Because what they want, they think you've gone crazy, right? They don't see you eat. In the beginning, you become a little bit weaker. You're not as strong as before, and they think that you've lost it, especially for moms and grandmas. They think that food is life, right? Food is life. So what would you say to the Gandhis of the world? What would you say to people who want to lose that attachment that everybody has over food? Because food has become the bandage that we use because we're bored, because we're heartbroken, because everybody just goes to the fridge or goes to the cupboard. So when you actually don't have that option, you have to face your life and deal with stuff. You cannot suppress it anymore. It has to be surfaced to be healed and recognized. So it's harder in the beginning, but then it becomes much easier.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I find getting away from family changes things.
It's not only family, it's your spouse, it's your kids. My baby girl, she's 6 years old now. In the beginning, she didn't see me eat, and she started having eating disorders. She didn't want to eat. She didn't understand why. So with time, I had to sit with her, I had to drink with her, I had to just be around the table, be in the energy of consumption.
That's a very interesting perspective. I haven't heard of it being mentioned like that before. Of course, kids are going to copy you, and if you're not eating, they're not going to want to eat
Yeah, they
either.
notice
Yeah.
they notice everything. Like, I'm a vegetarian, and she's missing iron, so she's always talking to me about chickens and about cows, and I can't really tell her, what I think about it, because I want her to eat chicken and cow, because we couldn't find anything that has iron and other stuff that she needs, protein and stuff. She's not an adult. She doesn't understand the concept of intention and changing your body through your belief. So there's a lot of these type of things that you do with kids, especially in the beginning, until they're mature enough to understand and make their own decisions.
Were there any moments during your Breatharian journey where you doubted the process and or started being like this isn't working or maybe I've got it wrong? And
Yes,
did you have to
I
like
was
pivot and do
actually
something new, or was it just a matter of faith and trusting the process?
in the beginning. My mentor told me that I'm going to lose weight until the moment that I completely accept the fact that I'm losing weight and that it's okay and it's a part of the process. And I told myself, my spiritual ego said, like, no, I'm the man. I'm not going to lose any weight. I'm going to be fine. The transition is going to be much quicker for me. That did not happen. I lost weight for about 3 months. I weighed about 15 kilos less. It's more than 30, 40 pounds less than what I weigh today. I'm very tall. I'm 6'4".
Whoa.
So when people see somebody that's that tall and skinny, and I was partying, we went to festivals, and we did raves and stuff, and everybody just kept staring at me. And I didn't tell most people that I did a breather initiation. I just told them I'm a very long detox. But eventually, when I did tell friends and people that are close to me, immediately they dumped all their fears because they saw that I lost a lot of weight. So I'm like, dude, we've been dancing for 4 days straight, and everything's fine energetic wise. But yes, I lost some weight, and but everything's fine. So they kind of like dump it on you, and then you start doubting the decision that you'd made, and you start doubting the process. And only when I really accepted the fact that I'm going to lose weight and I'm going to stay that way forever, then I stopped losing weight. And after a month, I started gaining a little bit more every time until I kind of like reached what I had before, maybe a little bit less.
Yeah, okay, that's cool. And
Yeah,
your energy, do you find, because you mentioned it's about having a lot of chi, do you find that you have to do more exercises to gain more chi, to be more physically active, or
not
is your
anymore.
activity just good?
In the beginning, you had to do visualizations and breathings until it becomes like incorporated, and not anymore. I exercise now because I enjoy it, because it's a part of who I am. I started exercising when I was 12 or 13, so it's a part of who I am. Breatharians that don't exercise at all, it will be an issue for them. But
Hmm.
they don't have to be hardcore. It can be like in the blue zones, mild exercise, mild daily exercise, 20, 30 minutes, walking, tending your garden, or doing some stuff that moves the body around. When you were dry fasting, for example, you've probably noticed that when you're a couch potato and you're stuck in your room, because you're like,
Yeah.
then it becomes even worse. But then when you go out, you breathe some good air, even if in the rain a little bit, suddenly you have all this energy that comes up, and you're like, wait a second, I can even go longer. Why,
Hmm.
why do I even stop, right? So it's the same mechanism.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. See if I remember that other question. Oh, came by and disappeared like a drive-by.
You
All
need
right.
to forget about wanting to ask it, and then it will come by itself.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, though, sitting there trying to remember that one, I did remember a few more. You mentioned earlier about light, the body consuming light. How does that work?
So there's no real proof of understanding how the mechanism of the body that requires significantly less physical nourishment work. It's not just about the adaptation. There are a few theories. One of the theories is that each biological cell that usually requires glucose can actually be nourished by light. And what does this mean? Well, we have the information, our DNA is much more enhanced, complex than that of trees and plants and of animals. And different animals and trees and plants create energy in different ways. So it's like we have a dormant ability to create energy from light, but we don't actually use it all the time. And it doesn't have to be direct light, it can be a light or a little bit of light. Do you
Can
understand?
it be self-generated, like through meditation?
You can probably activate it through meditation, but it's more about changing your belief and getting the body slowly accustomed to it. So, what will
Hmm.
happen to the body if the intention of the person is not about dying and understanding that there's something else that the consciousness just doesn't understand right now? So, you slowly reduce food. This is what happens in the initiation, right? In the beginning, there's a raw food week that it's a preparation, and then there's like a day of fruits, a day of water, a juice, a day of water, and then 4 days of dry fasting. Now, during this time, I'm slowly giving more and more information about how the body can actually live without needing so much.
Hmm.
And then the spring of belief changes, the core belief slowly changes. But what actually is the trigger is the 4 day dry fast that, according to science, supposedly you're supposed to die or feel very, very bad. But people finish this and they say, okay, something here has changed in me. I don't need as much anymore. Now, what does that tell the body? The body says, okay, I need to find an alternate source of energy, or I need to upgrade the system. And that triggers a mechanism that we call Breatharianism or Pranic living. So for some people, it goes up to 90%. For some people, it goes up to 100%. I had a student that went 3 years of just water, and I was like, wow, that's amazing. Because even me, I'm like in the 80%. If I used to eat like 3,000 calories before a day, then today I would consume a few hundred calories or up to 500 drinking or whatever. So you have these people that do that, and you have the stories, and this is something that happened to one of my students. There's something that opens up here, in the top of the palate for people who dry fast for a very long time. And we saw this happen one time. In Prajani, that is one of the Breatharian level fours, he said that it happened to him. And it's like he gets this, he called it a nectar that they can actually take from the top of the palate, which is just underneath the pineal gland, which
Yeah.
is very interesting. So we saw this in one of my students. He was just a regular guy, a very deep guy, but a regular guy. Like one of, if you would look at the 30 people that were there and you tell me, Ray, who do you think would be the one that this will happen to him? He wouldn't be one of these. So, but he was a hiker. He was Swiss. He was living in the mountain. He was hiking quite a lot. I believe that it had to do with his frequency that aligned with nature. And you really start open. We saw it opening. It became purple, and it was like a small cave, and it became liquid-like. And he did 5 days of dry fasting instead of three. You know, some of the students want to extend. And I told him, if you drink now, it's probably going to close and you
Mhm.
won't get the same effect. So he went one more day and then he said, okay, I'm going back. Maybe at home I'll play around with this concept. So we know that something happens there, that pineal gland is somehow activated and it creates something that they can actually have a wet throat with. So they kind of like suck it out. So there is a biological process that happens here that our scientists right now don't really know how to explain. I can tell you that I'm a very scientific oriented guy.
Mhm.
So I test myself. When I went on that television show, they weighed me, they checked my energy, input, output. They took me to a dietitian, they followed me, everything. And they said, look, it doesn't make sense. You're expending about 3,500 energy calories a day and you're consuming only a few hundred and you're not losing any weight. So I said, I can't explain it. The way that I understand is that our science absorbs and sees a phenomenon, and it's up to you guys to explain how this actually works.
Are you aware of other methods that activate that nectar? I have some ideas about it. I can tell you about it in a sec. But
No, this is the only thing I know. I know it's extended dry fasting and probably a very specific individual.
so there's in Taoism, specifically the book,
The one you showed me before?
yeah, the Taoist meditation. This is a really good one by Isabel Robinette. It talks about fasting and preparing the body and purifying it for other means, other reasons. And one particular part in the book talks about the Jade Lake. And it talks about certain movements of the mouth and tongue that you do while you're not eating so much, which actually cause this nectar to drip
Mhm.
down and enter into the mouth. And when it's combined with the saliva of the Jade Lake, it creates the, they call it so many different words, the immortal fluid, for better lack of a word. And then what you do is, after ringing the heavenly bell up in the head, which is the pineal gland, and having it enter into this space and mixing it around with your tongue, you swallow it. And as you swallow it, it moves down, I think they call it 5 areas or 5 chambers of the body. It mixes into the abdomen and then it gets absorbed into the body. And if you do that over a certain period of time, what will happen is you'll experience what they call an internal springtime, where gray hairs turn black, skin that lost its elasticity comes back to normal. You get your hair back. If it fell out, it'll come back. And it's very interesting. It's not the only source that talks about this nectar. In Neigong, which is a completely different area of expertise, same thing. Same thing, but it's done in a different way. You do it through the
Mhm.
microcosmic orbit, moving. Well, first you build the dantian, the chi, in the dantian region till it spills over. And then you circulate it after you roll it, you circulate it under the perineum, up the spine, or spread over the back into what you will feel as the crown chakra. It will move down the back of the tongue, deep into the body. And as it does that, it builds more energy. The act of the orbit itself increases the energy by like a third, and then it all combines into the stomach again, and then it starts to churn again and starts to rotate, and then you pass it under the perineum, up the spine, back over it again. And as you do this, your body starts to spill over. It starts to the chi leaks into the extremities. It starts to move the collagen. Collagen. It starts to move the what you call it, the vertebrae of the spine. You know, the soft tissues, the little pads
Uh-huh.
start to open up as the electricity starts to move through the skeletal structure itself, and you'll feel it as a stretching at first when you move it up the spine. It'll stretch, and then even your fingers and your arms will come away from each other, and your feet will start to stretch out, and you'll feel elongated. And then that creates more room for this chi. You circulate it again, and it will fill you out even more, to the point where you just feel this thick
So did you try
plasma-like
any of these
electricity.
exercises,
Oh yeah,
or
I
this
do
is
this one quite a lot. It's really fun because if you do this and then you practice, not straight after, but you can if you want. If you do this and you start practicing mantras for chakras, your chakra game completely transforms. The microcosmic orbit seems to upgrade your energy system to such a high extent that you can literally feel the containers for the chakra energy itself to such an exact precision you can draw it out easily with
Mhm.
all of the chakras. And if you do other energy systems out there, whether it's Kriya Corporated or Kundalini inspired, you'll also go way further with those practices because of what the microcosmic orbit does to your body. You see, when this body becomes filled with chi due to the microcosmic orbit, the chi starts to absorb into the tissues, the soft tissues of the body, into the
Mhm.
tendons and into everything. And your body actually changes. And you'll start to notice it too. You start to build muscle without working out. It starts from the inside and moves all the way to the outside. And you'll notice
That
that your
makes so much
biceps are
sense.
bigger than normal, and you
That's
haven't done
exactly what
push
I'm
ups, but your
talking
chest
about.
is
It's
huge. And you're
it's
like, oh,
it's
okay.
energy that transforms into physical matter.
Yeah.
And but it's controlled by you by your breathing, but your belief about it, but what you read about it, and eventually that becomes a reality.
And you can even measure this because they call it the Tendon Classic in Nagon, which is a series of texts that talk about more of the side effects of these high level practices, which anyone can get to if you just get really good at the microcosmic orbit. The body naturally starts to evolve in this direction. It talks about how the tissues transform to such a high degree that you become very, very strong. You can break things very easily. You become very robust, is the word. And they say to measure this, you take your finger and you just pull on the tendon, and you should feel the kind of springy tightness that's there. If you then move to your bicep and do this, and it's all squishy, your body hasn't developed far enough yet. Your muscles are supposed to get as taut as your tendons. And that's when you see these kung fu experts that can break things over their back and do all
That's
these
exactly what I
crazy.
was going to ask.
Yeah,
This explains a lot. So it's all about exercising the chi to a higher level, and it's beyond the physical strength, right?
and when you get even further, that's when this. Well, actually, during the microcosmic orbit, you'll notice when you get to these higher degrees of practice, which really is just you observing how the energy is moving and then constantly filling up the container. Then you'll notice that this nectar will drop and fill your mouth, and it'll be very
Mhm.
sweet. They say it can become unbearably sweet if you're not used to it, but you want to keep going, and then you can swallow it, and it will
So
start to have more of an effect on the body.
how much time a day did you practice it?
So in the beginning, the first month that I did it, and I did the Dao, I did this one as well in Bali, which is
Mhm.
the mouth movements that have the nectar drop, and I got my mouth feeling like I had just swallowed honey. It was really good. I was telling everyone about it, and they didn't. They were like, okay, whatever. I was like, I can taste it. I can taste it. For this one, it took me about 7 to 8 months, 2 3 times a day. I'd even do it whilst I was working. Sometimes I would do the exercises which help the whole the whole mechanism take place, the
Mhm.
process take place. With the microcosmic orbit, I haven't completely gotten to those same level of you know sweetness that I did with the Taoist meditation one, but I've gone really far with the energy going into the body and leaking into the tissues and into the bone marrow. That
Send me material. I'd love to try this exercise. It might correlate to what I'm teaching.
Yeah, that took only a month. It took me 2 weeks to learn the exercise properly. I learned it from
Hmm.
a specific lad called Damo Mitchell. I can also give you his course. It's free. It's on his website.
Hmm.
It took me 2 weeks to learn that, and then it took me about a month to really polish it up and get used to it. And yeah, I did it maybe once or twice a day for the first month, but then I overdid it because I overdid the proprietary exercises which open up the channels in the body that are similar to other exercises too out there.
Hmm.
So then I had to learn it's kind of like working out in that it does have a negative effect on the body if you do too much, and you have to let the body recover. And so I'd let the body recover for a few days and I'd continue. So it didn't take long. But what you're talking about, the nectar, especially if you fast, I believe you can get that much quicker. There are multiple ways of
Yes.
getting it, and they seem to have similar stories said about them, said about it, the
Well, I'll
nectar.
tell you, you need to think about food not as poison, but as something that creates additional required energy to deal with. Because you have to digest the food and you have to create poo from the food and you have to take it out from the food. So there's toxins that come in with the food. Food is very heavy, it weighs you down. That's why, after lunch, I work as an IT engineer. After lunch, everybody wants to have a coffee or something sweet, and the productivity declines. People are most productive in the morning. So it's about the quantities that people eat today that are significantly more than what they should eat, and it's about the quality of what they eat as well. I'm not saying be a saint and eat, only God's created organic vegetables and fruits. But if you eat significantly less, then you can actually sin more because you allow the body the time it needs to regenerate and detox from all the other stuff that you gave it.
Mm, yeah,
And that's an advice for the general public. Eat less, and it's more about the quantity than the quality in this case.
you got to do it slow too, so you don't have any negative side effects. You ever heard? Well, I know you've definitely heard of a particular story, but in the community of Breatharianism and even fasting, like water fasting, I've been out of the loop for a while. So, have you heard of any casualties? Let's say anything else that's happened,
Yeah.
or as people learn how to kind of
Yes, there
step
was
over
a
that?
casualty, a very famous casualty. The one that brought the Breatharianism to the West, she's called Jasmuheen. You've probably heard the name. And she's an Australian, and I believe that there was a casualty of people not following the rules of what she wrote in her book. And people, after a very long dry fast, drank a whole liter of orange juice, and the acidity just killed them, like killed him. It was one guy.
Yeah,
And when you finish an extended dry fast, you need to start with water, and then some after a day, some diluted juice, and then maybe after 2 days, take an apple or something like that. It's all about being safe when you do it. So yes, this is the type of casualty, or people that go on too much. Like I had a student that went on 15 dry fasting days, and I said, "Look, it's too much. In my initiation, I did 7. On TV, I did 8. By myself, I did like 10. 15 for you, it's too much. You wasn't that healthy to start with, or you're already skinny and you don't have a lot of meat or reserves as well." So after 15 days, his mother called me and his doctor called me, and everybody's like, I told him he's his own person. I can't really convince him. I can only advise him that it's time to stop and go back to regular routine. And when you want to experience a little bit more breatharianism, do it in a more safe way. The body needs to be adapted. It takes some time. Just like you said, it's a practice. In the beginning, in the first couple of months, you lose some weight, you lose some muscle mass. But with time and adaptation, everything goes back and even stronger than ever. And there's a lot of gifts that come with this lifestyle. You sleep significantly less. Like I sleep 5 hours a day. I wake up naturally. My heartbeat is slower, just like athletes. So it means I extend my life actually. These are the properties of animals that extend their life. You have more time for yourself, you spend less money, you're less distracted, you're more balanced. You can stretch much easier. I don't know why. I think the toxins are always cleaned between your inside your muscles and stuff. So people who are yogic, for example, when they do the initiation, when they finish, they can stretch even more, which is amazing. It's a different experience, and I can tell you that it's challenging and humbling. And it's not challenging from the food part; it's challenging socially. Society has an issue with Breatharianism because they cannot accept it, they cannot grasp it. You have to explain it in a different way. You have to explain it like you're on caloric restriction or you're on a detox, or you have to say it in a way that makes sense to them. That you didn't stop, that you minimized. You don't have to say how much you minimized, but science supports that minimizing caloric restriction actually extends life. So you can always take the logical point of view. To them, saying you're not hungry and you will never be hungry ever again will not make sense.
Yeah.
People are used to being hungry, eating, hungry, eating, hungry. It's a cycle. And when you are out of that cycle, it becomes more of a choice. You know, you're not like Superman. You're not going to go weeks and weeks without food and water. But now you're not depriving the body as well. Something replaces the things that are missing, and you have all the energy that you want. And now it has become a choice, more of a choice than a necessity.
Do you think that maybe your child's aversion to food may have come from you? That maybe, I mean, were you fasting and into this? I'm assuming you were when you had your kid. Do you think that might have genetically crossed over to your child?
I think not genetic, I think it's a vibration. Because back in the day when I did the 21-day process, my own initiation, like 12 years ago, and I had a few friends that did it with me. And when we were a group, we went down to Egypt to scuba dive and snorkel, and we were a group of six. Three of them were breatharians, and the other three just didn't want to eat. So it's sort of like a vibration that you emanate. My cat significantly reduced what she used to eat when I came back from my own initiation. So it's some sort of like a frequency that is around us. It's not only people don't really need to know it, it just happens. Have you ever been next to someone and you really felt, I don't know, their heart, their awareness? Like I have some teachers that I really could feel that, and this is what happens next to breatharians. You just don't want to eat that much. You know, as a Jewish person, in Yom Kippur, you know, all the Jews in Israel, they fast. And after the television exposure, when they did the television experiment with me, when I went 8 days without food and water under medical and television supervision, I came back to the office and everybody's like, you know something? Yom Kippur now is much easier for me. 1 day of dry fasting is nothing compared to the 8 days you did on live TV. And I told them it's all in the head. It's what you think, it's what you've been taught eventually. And when you experience it on yourself, then you change that belief. You don't need to go into it with an existing belief. Come into it with an open mind, you know, experience. Go 24 hours dry fasting and do everything normal. Exercise, have sex, talk to people, go to work, do everything 24 hours. See what happens. Once in a lifetime, you know? And most people that will do this experiment, they will say, you know something? It's not what I thought it's going to be.
What do they usually say?
They usually say it was easier. They usually say that once you don't surrender, you know, hunger comes, and then when you intend and you tell the body, no, 24 hours is 24 hours, then the hunger goes away. The hunger is kind of like testing you,
Yeah.
right? If you exercise a lot, like when you do abs, and it really burns, eventually it stops burning. When
Then
you go on a run and it hurts, and you say, maybe I should stop, eventually it doesn't hurt. You go on. When you're very, very tired, and then you're saying I'm not going to go to sleep, again you pass that. So
yeah.
we understand that it's a mental thing much more than it is something else. Let me give you another example. You know when you really need to piss,
Yeah, like right now.
and right now,
But
right
keep
now,
going. I'll do
even
it.
though you didn't go to piss before the conversation.
I did. It was, I have a weak bladder sometimes. I mean, I drank a whole bunch of tea, so that's why. But keep going. I'll do what
So
you
think
say
about it
now.
this
I'll
way.
do it now.
I was on my motorcycle one day and I
Yeah.
was heading towards my apartment in Tel Aviv. And I understood that the closer I got, I really needed to pee. Like before that, we had coffee, and I was like, it was a whole day that I didn't manage. And I would say, okay, I'm going to be in my apartment in 5 minutes. I really needed to pee. And when I came off my motorcycle, it was even worse. And when I came closer to my apartment, it was like, oh shit, I really have to go inside. And then I asked myself for a second, wait a second, how is it possible that the closer I get to release, my body makes me feel worse? And
Hmm.
then I understood that it's again, it's something that the body is creating. So your bladder can hold 5 liters. Your
I
body
never
is
thought. Yeah.
creating a sensation of tension and pain in order for you to release. So I told my body in that moment, I said, I'm not moving from this step until I don't feel anything at all. And I was like, I was already tensed up. And I waited and I waited. And there was like this angel and devil thing. What are you, stupid? What are you playing around with? No, believe in yourself. You can do this. Tell the body. And eventually, after like 30 or 40 seconds, I felt less and less and less and less stress until I didn't feel anything at all. So you understand how many of these things are in our mind playing games with ourselves.
Yeah.
What is the body? What is consciousness? What can you tell the body? I don't get sick. Why don't I get sick like a normal person? Why don't I get sick? I had COVID one time ever since my Breatharian initiation 12 years ago. That's it. I just got COVID.
It
So,
sounds like
so it's an
a
understanding. It's a
yeah,
game that we play with our body, with our belief system. And it's explained by
yeah,
placebo and belief, pretty much.
yeah. It's weird you say this actually. I feel like deja vu. I've had this exact conversation with you, which was weird. Because yeah, I was gonna say there was a time when I would tell myself I didn't need to use the bathroom, and then it would stop. And I noticed, like, I think a lot of people do this unintentionally when they're sleeping. They need to use the bathroom, but they can't be asked to get up. So they just lie there. And they're like, eventually, I understand this will pass. And it does, it passes. And they might
It
get up
does.
again later, but then it will pass again. And then in the morning, just a huge load of pee.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's our limitation, Ask yourself, what do I really need to eat or to sleep? And what can I play around with that I just got used to?
So you must practice a lot of Zen. You mentioned earlier how not thinking is something that you used to do before you had practiced Breatharianism, and it kind of made its way into your Breatharianism practices nowadays.
Yes, but I wouldn't say practice because practice means that I'm doing it intentionally a few times a day. I have incorporated it into my being.
So it's become unconscious behavior at this point.
Yes, I've noticed more my breaths have changed. I've noticed my thoughts have changed. Like my ego is minimized in some way. I don't take life as seriously as I used to. I don't try to get anywhere, and that makes me very, very calm all the time. And I see something in front of me. And trust me, living in a place like Israel, you see stuff all the time, and you have to deal with stuff all the time. And I see that I'm very, very indifferent about it. Not in a bad way, but in a way that I accept reality as it is without trying to argue with it and change it or complain about it.
Have you touched on any more esoteric, I want to say metaphysical aspects of reality throughout your process? Have you
I
like,
practiced a little bit. I've had lucid dreamings that I exercised. I did a couple of courses.
yeah,
My wife was into astral projection, so she taught me a few techniques, and I managed to do that as well. These type of things I did have by accidentally taking too much of a good thing. I had what you would call a
ayahuasca?
it's something else and something much stronger. I had like an after death experience. That's how you call it. That
Yep.
you pretty much die and you see your whole life go in front of you. And some people say that there's a tunnel, but I explain it in a different way, maybe a non-dual meet God type of experience. So I've had that twice in my life. And the second time, after my second time, I stopped pretty much any type of medicine or any type of drug that I used to take in order to expand my consciousness because I felt like I've reached the peak that I needed to understand, and now I can revert to being a almost normal human being.
Yeah.
Like choose why my soul is here, be a husband, be a father, and get a normal job. Try to be normal for a change.
Do you feel like your Breatharianism way of being is kind of pushing you out of that normalcy?
It does, but today I'm much less extreme than before. I eat more, I converse more, I'm more social. I allow myself more. So if I'll be in a day that I said, okay, I'm going to fast for 3 days, but on the second day I feel like having something, then I will stop my fast.
Yeah.
I will be more convenient with myself because I used to have this belief that it has to be hard in order to be attained.
Yeah.
And that's why I did. My process was extremely difficult. I did it in the winter. I did by myself. I did it in Vipassana. And today, what I see is that people transform into Breatharianism. It's much easier. The easier I make it for them. So if it's in a hotel and the hotel has a jacuzzi and we're always guiding and doing stuff and activities and not only Vipassana and hard stuff, I see that people transition easier than before. So I changed that core belief that I had. I'm a veteran, and I was taught that it has to be attained, it has to be hard in order to be achieved. And I changed that belief about everything, about money, about relationships, about life. I want my life to be easier. I'm not as young. I'm 43 now. I want, the rest of my life to be seen in my eyes as something that is easy and not hard.
I mean, this is quote that keeps showing up on social media, which is life really only ever starts at the age of 40. Everything before that is just you figuring it out.
So they say. They say, life is in sevens, right?
Yeah.
That's the anthroposophical way. So at 42, you reach a state that your character is almost sealed, and you're called wise. The in ancient tribes, if you've reached 40, then you were like the oldest in the tribe. So you have reached wisdom, and now you can attain that wisdom by staying more in the moment and not trying to run after. So when you're 20, you're running after girls. When you're 25, 30, you're running after money. You're trying to impress people. You're trying to do. So at your 40s, you stop running that much, and you kind of like become, especially people who work on themselves or people who are into personal development, you start sitting. So I stopped reading books as much as I did because I don't need the information anymore. A lot of the information is derived from within me. I ask a question, I close my eyes, I let go of my thought, and I get an answer. Usually my intuition is the right answer. You
Mhm.
understand?
I
So
do. Yeah.
I've had enough information to put together in order to live a very humble and nice life. So, and again, it comes in, it comes in waves, right? 6 months, you're trying to get more, understand more, and then 6 months, you're resting.
Mm.
Learn, your body now, how do you say that? The mind and the body now live what it is that you've learned, only to step up to the next step. It goes like this: up and then down a little bit, and then up again, just like in Tantra, right? You have all this, a lot of excitement, and then you have to stop for a little bit, and then more excitement. But the peak is going to be bombastic because it goes up all the way.
I haven't had that word in a long time. Yeah. Do you think that maybe I was gonna say? I mean, they both pretty much are the same thing. Age, how old you are, has anything to do with settling down and not chasing women anymore or not chasing money anymore? Do you think maybe that's just like a primal drive that happens when you're a certain age, and now just physically speaking, you don't feel the urge to do it anymore? Or is it maybe a little bit of both? Maybe it's also
It's probably a mix. Now that I think about it, um, I think that it's your personality because I know some people who are at 60 with their third kid and still chasing young girls.
yep.
So I would say it's a part of personality. About myself, I can only say that I learn quite quickly. I'm like, I can, like from 600 people in my military testings, I came out second.
Ah,
So
that's
my
good.
ability is to really see the belief and learn how to change it quite quickly. Like it drives my wife quite crazy because I see every little thing that she can actually do better and faster. And I try to teach her, but she doesn't like it. She says I have my own time and I'm slow, and I'm like super fast in everything. So I think that the lessons that I needed to learn, I learned them a little bit quicker. Of course, I'm still young, and there's a lot of lessons to be learned ahead of me, and I'm waiting to see what will happen. I have an understanding that I still have some roles to play. I don't know if it's about breatharianism or mentoring and stuff like that. Something in my future is with aliens, the open contact time. I have a sensation that I need to explain some things back in that time. And when I finish that, I can really retire.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, I like it. Yeah, there's this old man on YouTube. He's doing the rounds right now. He's going viral just because of his voice. If you look it
Mhm.
up, he's the guy with the most sleepiest voice, and he does these podcasts with people where people just listen. And one thing that he often talks about is the fact that as he got older, he just kind of got bored with thinking. He got bored with thinking. He got bored with everything people normally do, whether it's chasing women or money or doing something or doing anything really. And his mind just decided to be entertained by other things rather than thinking, which I think is one of the most profound
That's a good explanation.
states of awareness, or at least moments of awareness that a person can become aware of, if that even makes sense. Most profound states of enlightenment, let's say. That's a big moment, I think, for anyone to experience.
I love
And
that explanation. I got bored of thinking,
yeah,
so I stopped.
so he just stopped. And he said once he stopped, he became aware of so much more of what he actually was, or what life's all about. And he became someone who just observed everything and just stopped thinking. And from this, you'll hear it a lot in Zen Buddhism too, that knowing starts to come forth, which is what I think you were actually talking about, rather than leaning on information that you learned in the past. You kind of just know things. You go inward and you seek that intuitive advice. Yeah.
The overthinking monkey mind is always busy with the future. Always. He's thinking about tomorrow, he's thinking about the fears, he's thinking about what he needs to do, he's thinking about what he's not going to get. And when you stop thinking about the future, of course we know this. We know this, as a something that everybody talks about, be more present. But how do you get more present? You stop thinking.
Mm. Yeah.
Stop overanalyzing. You see the thought that you already thought yesterday, and you say, wait a second, I concluded that inner conversation with myself. There's no need to go over it again. Let's push that aside. You do that 1,000 times, you're left with only one thing. Now,
Have you ever thought that maybe there is another pattern that people could fall into once they realize that they no longer have to rely on what they've learned? They just go inward and they go more quiet.
yes,
But then that,
stress free. When you're stress free, and I think this is why, if we're going into conspiracy theory level 4 out of 10, I would say this is why the governments and organizations and society keeps most people occupied with mild stress. You know, you don't want people to be completely stressed, because then you get anarchy and rise up. And you don't want people to have all the time in the world, because then they see what you're doing and they kind of like no. So you need to keep people somewhere in the middle. When I see people that are stress free, they begin being more present. I give you an example. In the workshops that we teach, then people don't have their cell phone. Like that's one of the prerequisites that I tell them in advance. You're going to go 9 days with me, no cell phone. And what this does is that it disconnects them from YouTube and Instagram and social and news and their family and their friends, and it disconnects them from the world. And then you have a lot of people that are very like-minded, like you and I. We talk about a lot of open-minded stuff, and they have no stress whatsoever. And what we see is that they sleep less, they're happier, they get more solutions, they have a more positive, I would say, kind of like intention about themselves in the initiation and the changes that they want to do when they get back home. So that's what I see. And I think that humanity was supposed to be this way, but we chose a different narrative that's more dramatic and more intense. I
mm,
think that the souls that incarnate in this lifetime, are higher souls of everyone on earth right now. Everyone that has chosen to come to this very, very challenging place. And if you can survive here and flourish here, then you can probably survive and flourish anywhere.
Yeah. Well, yeah. My mind showed me a big image of Jupiter, planet Jupiter.
Uh-huh.
The Jupiter is it's crazy terrain, and so it's really hard to survive. But I think it's just taking things a little too literally.
Mhm.
Do you think you'll ever go back to learning from, or at least relying on information, even for a moment, that's outside of you? Or do you feel like you've just completely shifted to a more internalized way of being? Because the way I'm thinking about it is what if that's also another start of a cycle? It starts when you're like 40 something,
It could be.
but
I would say
then
80-20,
30 years
because I used
later.
to read,
Uh-huh.
I read like, I read like 500 books. That's why you showed me a book and I said, you know something, it looks familiar. I read so many
Yeah.
books in order for me to understand more about life and spirituality and consciousness. So I think I overdid it and then I got
Okay.
sick and tired of it. But I'm waiting for that. My kids are still young, so I'm in the phase that they need my energy more. I
Yeah.
believe that when they'll get to 8, 9, 10 years old, I'll go through another spiritual aspect of my life. I'll find something new, I'll dive into it, I'll know it very, very deeply, I'll experience it, and then I'll jump to the next thing. That's what usually I like to do.
That's exciting. Yeah.
It is. It's like it's something to look forward to, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Life is pretty surprising. Speaking of which, have you gotten? I mean, I'm assuming you have. For everything that you've said so far, do you feel like you just kind of take a seat back and you just let life play out in a certain type of way without you controlling it? Because if you don't control your thoughts, does that also usually people who don't control their thoughts or who don't think, they don't observe, well, they observe their thoughts, they watch them going by, but they don't interact with them. And that can then translate across over to their life. They just watch things happen, or even within themselves, emotional spurts of anger or what may have you. They observe it and they don't interact with it. Do you find yourself kind of taking a seat back and just observing how your life is playing out?
Yeah. I would say I'm a student of Bashar. And one of the first things I would say Bashar has taught me is that your intention in manifestation of your reality, you have to intend and let go of expectation. And this was hard because you always measure what you want with what you get in life. So it took me a very long time to really internalize this understanding that yes, you can intend and you can want. Wanting is a part of being human, but then don't grasp onto the end result and allow the universe to unfold in another way, a different way, maybe.
Yeah, people need that
Maybe
reminder.
God is smarter. Maybe God will find a way for everyone to be happy and not just what you want to get out of it, you know? So with time, yes, I learned to let go and not to grasp and hold on to.
So then for the audience out there, what would you say would be a process and or a way of putting out what you need to the universe without being so specific that it kind of bottlenecks you into wanting a specific result?
The best thing is to try to connect to the emotion that you're going to get out of it, because a lot of people say, okay, I want money. No, you want freedom, financial freedom. That's different, for example. Or I want love. Do you love yourself? You know, there's a lot of lessons that we need to learn until we can see that actually happening. You have to accept the new reality. If you're really doing it well, then you have to pretend that whatever it is that you wanted to happen has already occurred, and then you have to live your life in that way until it actually happens. It's pretty much a nicer way of saying fake it till you make it. But connect to the emotion. A lot of people are becoming very specific about what they want. I'll give you an example. Like I had a friend, an amazing woman, really very warm-hearted, looks great, sort of like Indian style, and she couldn't find a relationship. Like she couldn't find love. So I sat down with her and said, "Let's make it very simple. Write to me a list of 15 things that you want to find in a guy that are not the regular things. You know, that he's tall, he has a good smile, he makes good money, and stuff like that. 15 things that are unique to you." And then she wrote that list and she read it out loud to me. And I said, okay, in the next couple of months, the universe is going to send you different guys. If they don't fit to that list, don't go on a date with them. Don't continue with them. Don't do anything with them. Sort of like say, I am trusting the list and I'm trusting this process. And eventually, this is exactly what happened. You know, The universe has sent a couple of guys, not the right type of guys. She used to date the wrong type of guys all the time, giving them, supposedly giving them a chance. And then eventually, when she saw that at least 5 to 10 things of this list happen in one guy, she gave him the chance to go with her and to continue. And eventually, now she has a very long relationship with a very happy guy. So it's about really intending and knowing what it is that we want. And most people are just not clear with what they want.
Yeah.
They wake up in the morning not understanding. They don't have goals. It should be run like a business. It should be run like these are our goals, our projects for this year. This is what we want to attain, and make small shifts on the way to get you there.
Yeah. Hmm. Have you heard of, trying to make this very, what's the word? There's a word for it. Matrixy, losing it. Whenever you try to put complex things into words, your brain tends to screw it up, make it Swiss cheese. But there's a pattern. Since The Secret came out, before The Secret, let's say across the stretch of time, when it comes to manifestation, having a thought in mind and having it manifest. I mean, you've started taking Ernst's, well, in a way, on Ernst's courses, and even he touches on it as well. And I'm pretty sure he was taught by someone who also came from a similar philosophy on how to manifest things, where you would hold it in your mind for a certain period of time. There are common threads within
Yeah.
manifestation. Yeah. And I wanted,
Well, I heard about this 21-second rule, right? That you hold on to the manifestation visualization that you have for 21 straight seconds without trying to think about anything else. I heard about the one that right after an orgasm, you think and you hold on to that visualization when your whole body is exploding and you have this like high vibration. There's different exercises. There's a modality of twice a day for just a few seconds and then let go. So I think it's a combination of a few things and whatever works for you. Because it's like, it's a, how does Bashar say? A permission slip. Are you familiar with that phrase?
oh, yeah, yeah, I used to, yeah,
So it's
use,
a permission slip. You have your way, I have my way, but eventually it's a belief, and our mind, works with the universe, and it broadcasts out what we really strongly believe, and that's what we're going to get back.
that's a good way of putting it. Because so many people are so hell bent on it being a particular type of way that I find it kind of sucks the joy out of what may have been working for someone in the past, or maybe even robbing them of an opportunity of learning another way of doing it in the future. I think it's,
Yeah. Or they have their own way and they really got it and it works for them, which is also great.
yeah, it is, it is great. The you might also like this. Speaking of books, there's another one. You don't have to read it. There are things on YouTube. I'm not a big fan of reading, though I have books. I have to like work my mind
Mhm.
up to read something. I'm a fan of audiobooks, and you've probably heard of This is the life and the teachings of the masters of the Far East. Have you heard that one?
No, do you have it on MP3? I'm gonna write it down.
No, but just for
I
you, I
feel like
think you should
I
look.
feel like audiobook I can do because I exercise quite a lot, so I'm looking for things to hear.
Do you
So
have
the live,
YouTube Music? The life and the teachings of the masters of the Far East. Say that backwards. Oof.
okay. YouTube music, no, but I can find it.
Yeah, or YouTube maybe even you can just close your phone down; it'll keep playing. That's what I tend to
Mhm.
do. And you would really like manifestation. I'm not going to say their take on manifestation because they're pretty broad. They're very, I think, like much like yourself, how you can see things from different perspectives. When your wife has an issue, you can kind of see how she can learn something faster. You can. It seems like your mind kind of just like a scattershot approach can see variable ways of doing something. They seem to come from a very similar standpoint where they
Oh, that's good.
understand.
I'm looking for the logical explanations
Very
and the
logical.
tactics.
Yeah.
Yes. That's I like that.
They will go into areas of the Bible, areas of, I'm going to say Chinese mysticism, it could be Buddhism. They talk about manifestation in regards to dropping a
So it's one
stone.
book or it's like a
Oof. But
Nice.
you'll get a lot out of one book. There are 6 volumes. The last one is like nowhere to be found. But you'll get the gist of what they're saying and understand a lot of things just from the first book itself. And the
Cool.
second one is I'm currently going through it. There's a lot to catch up on there.
So did you also read channeling books like the Law of One, the Raw Material, and stuff like that,
So that was
or
actually
was?
a part of my upbringing, just through happenstance and freaky experiences, near death experiences, astral projection experiences. That was all kind of shown to me and understood at a very early age. Even when I was born, I wasn't fully wiped, so I could remember a lot of how things were put together.
Mhm.
This the moment I kind of came out of the womb and I was in my little incubator. I knew who my dad was. I knew who my sister was. I knew the situation that was playing out because I kind of planned ahead of time for this. And so, growing up and
You stayed connected for too long.
yeah, yeah. And so when hearing these very real concepts to some, yeah, I understood it. And so I've felt, and someone mentioned destiny the other day on social media as being something that we inherently know that we want to, how can I say? It's the ending to a book that we know we have to experience, and it's deep within us,
Mhm.
right? So how can I put it? I feel like all of this, no matter what's coming my way, whether it's an interview or books or an experience, even if it's just an individual experience there, I feel like all of it's kind of pushing me towards this destiny of waking up and being very much the type of person who lives his or its life, let's say, in the same way that these people do in that book, and in the same way that I feel you're also being pushed to, and many others as well. Channeling itself was something that was kind of wired into me through ayahuasca. I stayed away from it, and the idea of it when I was younger, I watched Bashar and I think Esther Hicks, maybe her name, or maybe that's the name of someone she channels.
Yeah, Esther Hicks and this Cryon. Those are like the most known ones, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and I wanted to stay away from it. I saw Exorcist growing up. I'm like, no, thank you. But ayahuasca, over the period of 4 days, opened me up for that experience and rearranged my system. And then I found that I could do it straight after. And I didn't throw myself into it and start marketing it or anything like that, making it a business. I just kind of stayed away from it still for at least a year or maybe a little bit more until
Mhm.
eventually life didn't force me, but gave me enough opportunities to want to do it for people. Like people heard about me having this experience, like, hey, could you try and channel this person for me? I'm like, I don't really do that, but I'll try. Started working, and then I did it for a little bit of an income, passive income, for a year and uh, a few months. But I had to stop because it was making me sick and it was filling the
Mm.
house up with entities. The three of us would have nightmares. I'd wake up and like, "Ugh," and then I'd hear my daughter screaming, and then Shahrazad's like yelping in her dreams. Like, okay, now we got to
So
clear
this
the
is
space.
this is recent. This is from the last years.
Uh, mm, how can I put it? It was before. No, yes, it was
Your
just
daughter is
after
4 years
COVID.
old.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that's 21.
yeah, yeah. And I had to shut it. I had to shut it down. Nowadays, I don't channel beings, entities, or ghosts. But I do tend to tap into the thing behind everything. Call it what you will. Everyone has their name.
Mhm.
Absolute God, universe. I have my way of kind of being that voice cracked, being that and using that as a way of living. I think is a way of putting it. I feel like I'm going in an area that's gonna be out of touch for most people, but
Mhm.
yeah, I don't necessarily read books on channeling, although I'm sure if
No, you have your own experience. You don't need to read the books about channeling.
I think I've been blessed and a little cursed at the same time by ayahuasca there. But yeah, Bashar's great. And I'm really happy that you came across him
You know,
too.
you know, he's saying, I've been following him for quite a long time. He's saying that in the next couple of years, we're going to have tremendous changes, building up to eventual open contact, like something that will be open enough for the mainstream to see. On TV, in the news, like it will be in a way that will not be able to ignore. So I'm very excited if that is true and if something like that will actually happen, because I believe it's going to be like taking the ant hill and going like
Yeah.
and seeing what happens. So I'm very excited about that little thing. What's going to happen with religion? What's going to happen with people? What's going to happen with technologies, stuff like that.
Do you think that's happening now, or it's going to happen after
I
what's
think,
happening
for
now?
example, even the New Jersey
The drones.
yeah, I think it's a part of it. I think Hollywood has been preparing us for that. I think there's more encounters. I think that the governments of France and Canada, they had people in high ranks came up and admitted that they have UFO information, and militaries are coming out of that. It's just very, very little in the mainstream media, but it's beginning to build up towards something, which I hope is kind of like that type of event. Because that I believe that means that we are eventually on a good positive course
Mhm.
to save humanity and not to go down a negative um, Earth future possibility.
What about Project Bluebeam? Do you think that's happening? Because I don't know. I can
That's
find out,
conspiracy
but
level 8. We're going up to 8, 9.
yeah, Project Bluebeam. Like,
I can't say. I can't everything above conspiracy level 7. I can't really talk. I can't say because I'm. It's just a sensation.
yeah, I wonder.
There's certain things that I know 100%. Of course, aliens exist. We have contact with some of them. The Twin Towers were blown up, inside job. These type of things are like on the lower level, and I can say 100% it's true. There's too much evidence. But things that are beyond that, MK Ultra and different experiences and time travel and the Area 51 and stuff like that, I can't say if it's true.
Do you channel then? Because you mentioned feeling. That's the way of doing
I
it.
do. I did a couple of courses of channeling as well, and I reached a level that I was able to channel, almost cleanly. And I noticed that if I practice it more, I will be able to do that. But I didn't want to work with people. I like to do things with myself. And in channeling, somebody has to ask you questions. My consciousness like really shifts to another place. And I hear myself like an echo, and I need someone to ask me questions. And I was so embarrassed about experiencing that with somebody that I just didn't want to do it.
Okay.
But my wife has that. She's like you. She remembers part of her birth. She remembers very young years. When she does rebirthing, just air, she remembers previous incarnations of her and a lot of stuff like that. And I believe that she is the channeler in our house, and I'm waiting for that gift to open up. Yes, she's learning psychology now, and she's learning alternative methods of healing, and I believe that everything will kind of like explode for her pretty soon. It will come together.
That's exciting. That's cool. I'm just gonna use the bathroom. It did go away. It went away twice, but then came back again with a vengeance. I'll be back in just a
So you're
minute.
distracted. We're just distracting you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll be back in just a
That's
moment.
another way, by the way, to work with a monkey mind.
No,
Distractions work
I
well.
used to know how to control the bladder exactly how you said it because I when I was fasting as well, I noticed the same thing that it's just a matter of thinking, placeboing it away. But I've been so out of touch with it that I can feel that my body has kind of forgotten, at least that part of my body has forgotten how to listen to my mind. Monkey mind, it's not there. I do too many things to shut it down. But the body is constantly pinging, like you mentioned earlier, sending these signals. Hey, use the bathroom. I'll be back in just a second. It definitely wasn't 5 liters. Cool. So we're doing pretty good so far. It's been an hour and 23 minutes. Is there anything else you want to cover before we close down?
Well, I think we should have another conversation.
Yeah.
Maybe we should be more prepared for it. Wait, think about other subjects, because there's quite a lot of things that I'm learning from you, and I really enjoy this. It's a good meeting for me. I'm getting a lot of understandings about my lifestyle, but from another point of view, from someone, you practice quite a lot of different things, more than I did at least.
I don't know if I'll say more. Maybe, maybe I don't know if I'll say more. I think just we're all into our own interests, and I'm one of those types of people who are very practical, and I like to dive into a lot of stuff, and I remember what I learned, which is interesting. Other than the word cartilage, which was what I was trying to put across earlier, the cartilage
Yeah.
opens up throughout the whole body, and that allows the electrical current to move through the body better. I think you'd really enjoy you'd definitely be able to do it easily. The microcosmic
What's
orbit,
the name? Micro?
microcosmic orbit. Damo Mitchell is, in my opinion, one of the, not the, because I'm sure there are other people out there, but one of the best teachers out there. I learned how to do it with Mantak Chia like years and years ago, and I nowhere near came close to the experiences that I'm experiencing
What's
to
his
date.
name?
Damo Mitchell. I also have a
Demo.
playlist that I put together. I can send that to you if you want on YouTube, so
Yes,
that
please.
yeah. Because I went through his website and I clicked on every video that's been unlisted, so that it would show up in my YouTube
I know
history,
this
and then I
exercise. This
created.
exercise is something that when you practice Tantra, you learn this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Similar area of expertise here.
Yeah, send it to me.
Yeah,
That's cool.
100%. Yeah, that would definitely take you, I think, another level up. Why not, right? Get all
Yeah,
these little
I
upgrades.
just need to find time for everything. You won't believe it, but I'm working like a regular job. I have the Breatharian and the YouTube channel. I have two real estate projects in Costa Rica where I'm building a house. I'm exercising 5 times a week. I meditate quite a lot, so I have a lot of things on my agenda. In addition to that, I try to spend at least 3-4 hours a day with both my kids on the weekends.
Yeah, that's, I don't know how you do it. Like,
I try to squeeze in everything, and I try not to get tired. Like, I try to always think that my mind needs to rest and my body does not. So if I need to rest, I just take a couple of deep breaths
yeah,
and I go on with the day.
yeah. I find bathroom breaks are a good time to shut everything down.
Everybody does.
Yeah.
Bathroom and shower breaks. That's the escape.
Well, sometimes they escape on their phone and then they kind of forget what they're doing and they're scrolling. I try to make it a point to leave my device in my room, and then I just like make my mind blank when I'm on the toilet. And have you seen the way of blanking the mind that's done in Zen Buddhism, which is you, let's say your personality, let's say you're sat on the toilet and you close your eyes and then you get a sense of self, right? And then you have this sense of self, and you look at it and you say, well, wait a minute. If I'm able to look at this, then that can't be me, right? If you're able to observe your sense of self, then it stands to reason that that's not you. You're the thing observing it. And so I would sit on the toilet because I have a little moment there, and it's a little like cubby. And I would just constantly do this to no end other than just being there. And I can't say it's just being pure awareness because I don't think that's what we are, because awareness is a state. We can become unaware just as quickly as we become aware. So we can't be awareness. We're not consciousness because we can be conscious one moment, we can be unconscious. So then if we're not awareness and we're not consciousness, then what are you? And then you reach this nice blank state, which happens when you listen to koans. Have you heard of koans?
Korans.
A koan, Koan. It's like a
It's a
Buddhist
state.
tradition. Koans are little stories that are created to dumbfound the mind, to have a person come to these weird moments of spasms.
Like listening to a one hand clap.
That's a koan. That's a famous
Yes.
one too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Most people in
Yeah.
the
I
West
I
just slap
I,
you,
I
but
use them.
that's
Yeah.
a proper one,
And
yeah.
then you get like, wait. Oh, okay.
So the answer to all koans are the same answer, and they're designed to systematically break down a person's sense of self, and also, and in the process, make a person self-aware of the fact that there's something in here thinking. So it
Mhm.
really helps with getting rid of monkey mind, but it also, on a deeper level, helps you connect to what you actually are. When you astral project, you've done it before, right?
Yes.
So when you astral project, you're mostly mind for the most part, as long as you're not really tied to your ego or thinking, which will just kind of somewhat still connect you to your brain and your body. But most of the time, when people leave their body, they're just what they actually are in essence, which is just mind. And so, for this reason, they don't actually think words in their head. They can't. They can still think, but it's a form of knowing. So it's like you kind of know where you want to go or what you want to do. But there's this nice like silence that kind of fills the space, which is actually emanating from you. It's your mind. It's like the natural
Hmm.
state of you. The simplest exercise, but if you keep doing it for a long enough period of time, there are deeper and deeper levels to it, and you wake up more and more you as what you actually are, which I'm sure a lot of this you've heard before. But it's bizarre because, like what we were talking about earlier, there's so many different ways of manifesting. There's so many ways to get back to this normal state of you.
Hmm.
And I just bring it up because it's fascinating, and I know I enjoy it.
What's fascinating in astral projection and in lucid dreaming is the lack of emotion, and if you put emotion into that, then you lose the lucidity and you're out.
Yep,
Fear, happiness, excitement, it doesn't matter. Any type of emotion, you're
you're done.
out.
Yeah, it's and that's something a lot of people
That's why
struggle
I
with.
like the mind. I like the mind better than I like the emotional body. I know I'm
Ah,
missing out on some human experiences, but I'm more guided mentally and logically than I am emotionally.
I'm sorry, you mentioned chakras, and you've been talking about your is it a school or do you pop up workshops? We can also
I
discuss that a
do
little
a
bit more
couple of
too.
workshops in different countries every year.
Can you remind me to bring that up so that we can definitely talk about it before we close down? I just went off track again, getting overstimulated and getting too excited. What were we just talking about? Astral projection. You said something
So we're
about
talking
lucid
about,
dreaming,
when you get too emotional
emotion.
when you astral
I remember
project.
now. Yes. So you mentioned chakras earlier. So you definitely have experience there. Are you aware of the chakras being seven qualities of the human design? And although you can be just mind in a body and very much detached from your emotional state, if you activate the chakras, they can then replace your emotional body in a sense. They like give, it's like clearing out
Mm.
dirty water in the fish tank with new water. It will spring to life a series of frequencies that will better support your mental, your logical, and even your physiological states. In case, how can I put it? In the sense of those aspects of your mind interacting with the energies, you know? So like when you feel rooted, physiologically speaking, you'll feel grounded and you'll feel calm and very relaxed. From a mental aspect of it, your mind now starts to become calm. And from a logical aspect of it, the way your logical thinking interacts with grounding energy is, oh, what is this? This is weird. I suddenly feel like I don't need to move anywhere. Even emotionally speaking, you can have a reaction to it. Your emotional mind can react to it in a sense. I say emotional mind loosely because really that's just a body, but you can have like a reaction to it. Oh, I'm suddenly grounded. This is cool.
Hmm.
Egoic mind as well tends to chime in. Oh, I can do it now. This is great. I'm so good. Cut that off because it will stop the energy from flowing and stop you from experiencing these energies that come out of the chakras. But do you notice having experienced being just mind, especially throughout your breatharian process, the side effects, or at least the replacement aspects of the energies that come from the chakras, developing a more wholesome sense of self as an individual? This is a very complex, weird question to ask, I know, but I just think maybe you might have noticed
I
something.
never heard it defined this way. I think that the simplest way that I defined it so far is that one of the side effects that happens when you live this lifestyle is that you become more of who you were meant to be. That's the way that we see it. It's sort of like you peeled another layer from the onion and you're closer to the core that you were designed to be. And the layers are, everything that doesn't really belong there, overthinking, overanalyzing, and when you peel another layer, Suddenly, for example, a gifted musician will become even a better gifted musician. I became a better lecturer or a better analyzer, seeing all these little details that I couldn't see before. So when you become just more, you remove another obstacle from your true self.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. It's like an
Yeah.
awakening, right?
And again, it's all the complexities that we create in our own life, right? We're creating the complexities. Naturally, the little inner child is excited, he's happy, he's gifted, he's healthy. And with time, we add these complexities to our life. It
Hmm.
could be karma, it could be drama, it could be really what we need to go through, but it's a perception, right? If you look at the Dalai Lama, you see in his eyes that he's as pure and happy as a young child.
Figured it out.
Yeah, he is, and I've seen him twice, and it's mesmerizing.
I always wondered if perhaps the benefit of being in a country that isn't so Western influenced helped him stay, and other people like that stay very innocent and pure. Like there are certain tribes and cultures around the world, especially in second and third world countries, that seem to have that joy in them, especially in African countries. It shows through their
Mhm.
dancing, and it's like, wow,
Maybe it's simplicity.
that is a good way of looking at it. Yeah,
Yeah,
simplicity.
because we in the Western world we overcomplicate. We look at Africa and we say, "Oh, we need to heal you." They look at us and we say, "You're miserable. Please don't come."
That is, yeah, that is true.
I think we should be coming to a closure.
Yeah, yeah. Before we end the call, I'd just like to give you the opportunity to mention anything that you're currently doing. If you're holding any workshops or anything like that where you're
Sure,
teaching other
yeah. I,
people.
I
Yeah,
hold two workshops every year, sometimes three. One is always in Spain in the end of winter. I have one in March 25, so in a couple of months. And I have another one in Sedona in November, usually in the same place.
cool.
So they can find everything on my website. Just Google my name, Ray Maor. You'll find my YouTube channel, my workshops, my website. Like I'm all over the place.
Nest.com.
RayMaor.com.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you for being here. I've enjoyed this and I hope you've had a good time too.
Yeah,
um,
definitely. So I have a question.
yeah,
I always see you with the hat. So
yeah.
what's with the hat?
Oh, it's just like it became a thing. Yeah,
Okay.
basically.
I thought, maybe he's bald, maybe he has weird ears, maybe he's hiding something. It's just
No,
your
I mean
hair.
at the moment I'm kind of not really bald, but I'm short. Let's say I buzz cutted it off because I'm
Mhm,
timing growth with beard growth for the next few months. But back in the day, my hair used to be pinned back, and
mhm.
certain days I just wanted to record a video, and I didn't want to have to go through the fuss of fixing
So you
my
just
hair.
put the hat.
Put a hat on, and then it
Yeah, I
became a
noticed. I
thing.
also don't know what to do with my hair. Let it down, put it, up. I understand. I deeply understand.
Yeah, yeah. There are videos out there on my YouTube channel where you can see my head, but some people complain because I just cut it all off and shift the look so many times. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, thank you again for being here. It's been a pleasure to speak to you finally.
Thank
I
you, Ryan,
watched
and thank
your.
you for what you're doing to the world. Your YouTube channel opens up people's minds and it helps elevate the frequency of everyone.
No problem, no problem. Yeah, yeah. It's good to think of it like that. Don't think about it too often. Yeah. For those of you
Well,
who, yeah,
don't you get like these comments on YouTube that reinforce you and make you think, something, I am doing something good, I'm helping people out. I read my comments and it really helps me make more videos and spread more knowledge and more love and stuff like that. I'm sure that you get the same.
yeah, there are a lot of positive subscribers out there, which I'm glad that they're there because otherwise I wouldn't be on YouTube. I have a really
No.
good profanity filter, but honestly, they're the only people that keep me on, or at least making it feel safe enough for me to make content on certain topics. And I would like to have actually probably even a Discord server. One person mentioned where I can talk about absolutely anything because there are some things I don't talk about just
I
because
had
it's a
I had
little.
I had one video that was removed, and it's a video that I was talking about, the the wars, the food, and the medicine industries.
Who removed that? I
and
wonder.
and that they made that video disappear. Somebody made that video disappear. Yeah. So I shut up after that about certain things.
Might go missing.
I assume now with AI they're even faster in finding these type of subjects. You know, when they analyze what we say and the overall message of a video, then I assume today it's easier for them to find these type of stuff and remove them.
I remember when Google was brilliant, it would give you anything. But then one day I woke up and it was so censored with a brand new look, and I couldn't find the websites I'd usually find, especially information on how to develop certain abilities. They weren't there
Mhm.
anymore. And then I kind of got a little upset. And so I started using other search engines, like ones from
Yahoo.
Germany or Yahoo. They need to stay off of my browser. They keep finding a way to revive
To come back.
themselves every time I delete them. Yeah, but Yahoo was something I would also frequently use anyway back then. And yeah, I wish one day. I mean, I don't think it'll actually ever happen. I think it's always going to be censored, at least in the West, the internet. Perhaps we'll just have to keep using these other search engines to find information that's quite useful. And you mentioned a book earlier on breatharianism. Can you mention it now so that people listening can find it as well? Can you remember?
Trying to remember the name. There's one book that is called The Food of the Gods. That's one of Jasmine's books. I'll try to find that book for you. It's a book that's more about the biology. It was written by more like a scientific, aspirated guy. And he was really searching to understand how the cell can really live off light.
Yeah,
I just don't remember the name.
that's really cool. So
It
cool.
is.
Awesome. Right then, well, I bid you adieu. Enjoy the rest of your
Thank you,
day.
brother.
Take care.
Have a good day.